Pop in Miguel here just at the very last minute. You can all see behind the curtain. Pay no attention to the Miguel who was not here at the start of the stream. Hello, everyone. Welcome once again to another Friday stream with Trotec. We're so excited to have you guys all here. If you're just jumping in, we're going to give people a few minutes to hop on, but say hello in the chat. Let us know where you're watching from and introduce yourself. Ask us any questions you like. We're here for you guys, and we are here especially for our special guest today, Ali Harrison, who's joining us from Toronto, I believe, right?
Yeah. Hi, everybody.
Hi. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you.
Awesome.
Yeah, welcome to my studio. This is my studio in the West End of Toronto, where I kind of create and produce all my products.
I was going to ask, I mean, sometimes I feel like maybe it's a bit of it's like an overreach, but we always try. Anybody who's in the studio, we're always like, what's the possibility of getting a tour of the studio?
Half of the studio.
That's okay. No sweat. We will. We'll get back to you on it.
Bring down and you can see I've got like my machine set up.
Yes, awesome. Thank you.
I don't want to show you the table that's in front of me. It's full of stuff.
That's okay. It's full of secrets and important things. Trust me, there's a reason I don't give people a tour of my office. It's because I'm sure it's a very similar situation. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I said we only see the blank white wall behind you.
Yes, and what a lovely wall it is, too. I'll have you know, I have a really exciting idea for what's going to be on this wall. It's just trying to find the time to get around to like decorating the background behind me has been brutal. I don't know why. We're also joined by Miguel. If you guys have seen our streams before, you've almost definitely met Miguel. How are you, sir?
Hello, everyone. I'll be honest. I joined in today just because I'm a huge fan of Ali, and that's it, right? Like, I wasn't even supposed to be here. I had to ask Dawn, like, can I come in? I just want to ask her questions. I didn't have enough time when she was here, so yeah.
Thank you, Miguel. You're making me blush.
I wouldn't blame anyone for joining the stream as a big fan of Ali's work, to be honest. You are, I will say this right out front, not trying to blow smoke. I mean, very genuinely, you are one of the customers that we always show people on Instagram as like a,
wow.
You know, if you want to broaden your mind and think about what sort of cool creative stuff you can make with a laser, here is a perfect like example. I wanted to kind of kick things off, if you don't mind, sort of, you know, could you tell us a little bit about how your business got started, like how you got interested in Papercraft and you know what it is that you do?
Yeah. So I it was 2012. And I was actually working at the University of Toronto in administration, and I was just feeling just like not really using all of my creativity in my job. It was like just getting a little bit boring. So I started experimenting with paper cutting after work, and I would just go home and like kind of make paper cut crafts. So using like an X-Acto blade like this one, like just like a really tiny blade and just carving into paper. And I really like fell in love with the art of paper cutting. So I just started to produce different paper artwork, and I was cutting everything by hand with an X-Acto and only using paper, and just selling it kind of like on Etsy and to like very small craft shows or to friends and family. And then, so my dad is actually a business consultant. So he sat down with me and he was like, okay, do you want to make this a business? Like, how are we going to do it? 1, 2, 3. So that's how I came to laser cutting. So I decided that I wanted to be able to reproduce my work and reproduce it myself and in different materials. And I wanted to be able to just try something that would allow me to kind of recreate like the beautiful art of paper cutting and like that uniqueness and kind of like recreate that as close to the original as possible. So that's what led me to trying laser cutting. And then so I got my first machine in 2014, I believe. And yeah, and then have just expanded since then.
Wow. I mean, like, hats off to, I mean, we're seeing this amazing video from your Instagram. I have to say, if you guys aren't following Light and Paper Alley on Instagram, you're missing out. Please,
I have
Instagram.
So I also have no, like I mentioned, I was in administration. I have no artistic training. Like I have no artistic background. I don't have any technical background. Like I'm completely self-taught.
How is that possible?
But yeah, so I just kind of I feel like I got very lucky with everything. But it it's been really fun to like teach myself. I like learning new things, and I like kind of like figuring things out by myself.
I mean, look, you could have fooled me, to be honest. Watching this,
Oh,
I have to say, so you said you're working in administration at the university. That was in 2013, and you bought your first machine by 2014?
Yeah, so I was working in administration at the university. Like I started there probably in 2010.
Okay.
And then I was just experimenting with paper cutting. I probably had done paper cutting for about 2 years before I decided to go full time and invest in the laser cutter.
That's really cool. That's fantastic. I will say, it's certainly, obviously, Ali is the focus of the stream, and I think her work speaks for itself. But I did want to mention the last time you were into our showroom. So I believe I was speaking with Miguel later in the day, as people may or may not know, doesn't really matter, I guess. But I'm out of our Montreal office. I'm not in the Mississauga office anymore. So at the end of the day, I just happened to be chatting with Miguel, and I was like, oh, Light and Paper. I'm so sorry. We call you Light and Paper Ali sometimes. I shouldn't say Ali, but like Ali came in to do the showroom. He's like, yeah, and her dad came with her, and like they were both really, really cool. I was like, you got to meet her dad? He's like, yeah, her dad was super cool.
Yeah, we have like my sister actually did a big post on Instagram about this today, but we have a lot of jokes about our family because I have 3 siblings, and then my dad is really obviously like a great mentor to us, but my siblings are also like very creative and talented and like successful in their own fields, so everyone kind of like always jokes that we have some kind of like crazy creative fluke family.
I mean, it's kind of like one of the classic like super groups, makes me think of like the 70s, like the whole family gets in the van and tours around and like applies their trade. Miguel, do you remember this was one of the first, like when you first came to Trotec, I feel like you maybe were actually one of the first people maybe to show me Ali's profile on Instagram possibly, but
yes.
Do you want to talk a little bit about like her work or what it is about her work that you like, or like kind of what draws you to it?
Yeah, absolutely. First, I think she had a very similar process about things and how I enjoyed, to draw and create, real life stuff, because I also come from like an artistic background. And I used to love the fact that she always went to kind of human biology and organs and stuff like that. And I was like, why is she going that route? So I started following, and in my mind, I thought she drew everything and then she just laser cut it. But no, sometimes she started doing the designs with the X-Acto knife and took a picture, vectorized it, and then she produced on the laser. And that blew my mind. I was like, oh, mom, man, like this is so cool. Mm-hmm. And I just kept following her, and I love her work. It's simply too unique and too charming. It has a uniqueness to it that I haven't found anywhere else. So agreed. I love it. I love how she put in paper with her name. She actually took paper to herself, and I love it.
Thank you. I mean, something that like drew me to people. A question I often get, is like, oh, why don't you just do everything on the computer? Like, why do you need to use an X-Acto? Like, why do you do paper cutting? And I'm like, oh, well, I didn't get into this to like make stuff on the computer. Like, I love making paper cuttings. I love like sharing that artwork. And I think it gives my work like a really unique and different aesthetic than other laser cutting you might see, and other kind of like digital design products. So like I would never only make things that were on a computer or just digital, because it like loses that like that kind of like nice aesthetic that it has.
I agree. There's something very tactile about it, right? That I think is, at least for me, is part of the charm of sort of papercraft in general. But I have to ask, kind of a 2-part question, I guess, is, you said that you were kind of getting into papercraft, for a year or two before, like you said, you decided to kind of go full time and like invest in yourself, kind of thing. But then also, you must have had like sort of artists or other kind of things in papercraft, I assume, that sort of inspired you in the beginning. And I guess, I'm sort of curious if you have, any of those inspirations that you could share with us, like the people who sort of got you excited about it. And then also, how do you feel like you fit in the tradition of papercraft? Because this is an art form that's been around in one way or another for a long, long time.
Yeah, for sure. there's like so many amazing paper cutting artists that I really admire. I really love the work of Bovie Lee, and Rob Ryan and Elsa Mora. They have like really just like unique styles and beautiful. They all kind of work, or like traditionally they've all worked kind of like similar to how I started, where it's just kind of like one piece of paper that you're carving out from and then creating like a piece from that, which is like my favorite way to create paper artwork. But I'm like pretty like self-deprecating about myself, just because I didn't come from artistic background, and I feel like so many of the amazing paper cutting artists that I admire are more like fine art people, and their like work is in museums, and they're really like kind of like more like traditional art route. And one of like creating my work with laser cutting and making my work more affordable and accessible to people, it's allowed me to build a successful business. But I often feel kind of like, ooh, I'm not an artist. Like, oh, I'm not like as good as like a fine artist. So that's like, I guess my own insecurity.
I think, I would ask Miguel, for his opinion, but I would say that there's something about, I think, creative people that just, there seems to be, we can never be, like most of the really creative people I know are either kind of on one end of that spectrum or the other, where they're like very sort of self-deprecating, or they have just this incredible self-confidence that sort of carries them through any situation, right? Like either like drummer syndrome or lead singer syndrome in some ways, like, you know what I mean? It sort of is part of their, how they create. But
I think even with confidence, you are kind of self-deprecating, because if you're not, you kind of stagnate, right? It pushes you to do better and search for good inspirations and people that you admire, and like, okay, they do it this way, so what can I take from that and use as my own style? And you just keep improving and improving and improving. So I mean, like I said, you could have fooled me if you told me you've been like drawing since you're a little kid and you had your own style, since that, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old. I'd be like, yep, for sure.
Yeah, I actually think that it's like, it can be a strength, especially like business wise, that I didn't come up through like a fine art background, and I didn't kind of have that training, because I'm like not at all like precious about my artwork. Like I'm not like kind of like too particular about it, and I can kind of like, I'm okay with like making those decisions to like choose to make something that will actually sell and actually make money. And like me making a living off of my work is like, that's the most important thing to me, is to be able to like sustain my business and make a living for myself. So it's kind of, as I think business wise, is a benefit.
I think sometimes people look at that mentality in the wrong light. Like I always think, I never understood. So I was in a lot of really bad bands when I was younger, right? As many of us were in high school. And like this idea of, hi, Amy, so happy you could join us. This idea of, oh, that band sold out, or like that band, like I've never understood that idea. It's like, why would you begrudge an artist, no matter what route they take, trying to make enough money from their arts they can keep doing it? Like it's not, you know what I mean? Like you have to be able to pay to, have a studio or eat and stuff. So there's no, I don't think it's about like sort of a commercial versus an art thing in some ways. It's just about, I think as sort of Miguel said, it's just finding those inspirations, and however you choose to, I mean, look, regardless of what anyone says, I think at the end of the day, the style and the aesthetic that you found clearly touches a nerve with people. I mean, look at us. Miguel and I are just sort of like, go on.
I do have a question, because I know that this question will pop up eventually, but why human organs? Why realistic human organs? I know that you utilize them, but they are very realistic, right?
Yeah, so that's like a question I get all the time, actually, especially at like shows and stuff. Mm-hmm. So I first created, my first anatomy piece was the heart, and I have one of the wooden ones here that I can show you. So I'll just put it up in front of my shirt so you can see. This was the first one that I created first in paper, and I created it actually inspired by my partner. He's an epidemiologist now, but he was doing his master's in kinesiology and doing anatomy classes. And it was when I first started paper cutting, before I got the Trotec, before I like was full-time doing this business, but he was like, oh, like these, I was using a similar pattern to these in another piece, and he was like, this looks like in my textbook, like looks like a part of the human body, like why don't you use these kind of patterns and make an anatomy piece. So I made the heart first, and it just like really took off as like a really popular piece, and then I kept getting commissions and requests for other body parts, so I just kind of like expanded it as a collection. But yeah, I'm always kind of like, people think that I'm like an ex-medical student or like a nurse or something who has like a background in it. So I have all the anatomy textbooks in our home, but I'm no medical expert.
Can I ask a question? This may be silly, but I'm just curious. When you held up the heart that are made in wood, like it's they're always bigger than I expect them to be, I guess, right?
Yeah.
Having interacted with your work principally through photos. So can I ask, like, what scale are things typically made at for the first time? Like if you're
I have one of the paper ones here. I'm just gonna put white paper behind it so you can see. So this is the scale that I work in for the originals. So it's about like, wow. This is just an 8.5 by 11, so you can see just like how small the holes are. When I'm paper cutting the originals, I just like naturally go really small. Like I can't help it. It's just like I just kind of like go too small. So I often have to like keep that in mind to be like, don't go so small, go bigger, so that it doesn't take forever to produce, right?
See, but I kind of think, and again, not to gush, but I kind of think that's part of what's cool about your art is like when it's big, I think there's a certain like wow factor that gets conveyed just through the sheer size of it. But also, I feel like there are very few arts that like get appreciated in a different way when they're really small, because yours has such intricate detail as a fundamental part of it, right? Yeah. So like the smaller you started out, the more kind of skill it obviously must have taken to like create those cuts and patterns in the first place.
Yeah. It's
I love that. Sorry, just that comment from Rachel there in chat. Just ordered your liver paper art for my husband, who's a liver surgeon. So excited.
Yeah. So, well, that's a perfect example of why I keep making anatomy artwork. Is that, and I never expected this when I made the first piece, but like people have such strong connections with the pieces, and they really like they'll either like a medical professional, like a liver surgeon, or someone who's had like a transplant, for example, or like a surgery, or kind of like a commemorative piece for them. It's just been for so many different people, either professionals or just regular people, have just fallen in love with that collection so much. So that's why I've kind of expanded it. People are begging me now for an eyeball and a tooth piece. So those are the two that I need to make.
I just pray that somebody joined the stream like right at that moment and have that sentence out of context. That's why I love this video, because I always imagine there's a moment in this video where you're counting like your pieces to make sure you have everything for the show, I think, right? And I just imagine somebody finding this whiteboard that you're writing on, again, like outside of context, where it says like 3 hearts, 2 livers, 6 lungs. You know what I mean? Just like...
I know. I'm always worried when I'm shipping stuff internationally. I always like prefer to like change, like be like paper artwork, because if it like imports from my website, it's like liver, and I'm like, they're gonna think I'm like sending something that is
human skull. Yeah. Like, it's flatter than I expected. That's strange. That's really cool. So I have to ask then, sort of, coming off of that, we had a great question in chat there about, the types of paper you use, which obviously I'm sure is a question you get a lot. And then also sort of what are the different mediums that you work in? Because obviously, Papercraft maybe first and foremost, but then you've transitioned that same thing into like enamel pins and into woodwork and into all kinds of cool things.
Yeah. So, all my originals I primarily make in paper, and then I do the like kind of like exact replicas, like that kidney one we just saw. That's like an exact replica of the hand cut original. And then I also have wooden pieces as well. So I primarily work with birch wood, and then recreate the wooden pieces with that. I feel like I'm not like the most experimental with different materials. Like I kind of like have been sticking to what I know with like the couple woods and paper, and because that's, for me, it's like I want to create something that's as close to my paper cuttings as I can. So the materials isn't as big of as kind of like a creative outlet for me as the design are.
Makes sense. I would ask, sort of from the business standpoint, and we don't have to get into anything you don't want to. That's proprietary, obviously. Just let me know. That's totally fine. But we always get questions, first and foremost about how do you go about selling? So you said that you started on Etsy, but we've seen videos here from your Instagram of, like appearing to the One of a Kind show, trade shows, exhibits, that sort of thing. Even your own website, obviously now, right? You have your own web store. What would you recommend sort of for somebody who might be starting out, and then as that's kind of grown, and then sort of what percentage roughly would you say comes from maybe 30% at shows, 30% from your website, or whatever it's sort of how it breaks down?
Yeah, I mean, I'll kind of talk pre-COVID because it's like changed a lot since then. But I started, when I first started out, I just had an Etsy, and it was just because it was like so easy to set up. I could just put my one listing on, put it up. And it was kind of like, Etsy was kind of like ubiquitous with like any craft. Like it was like, okay, if you're going to look for something handmade or a craft, you're going to Etsy. Now I feel like it's been more kind of like, kind of spread outside of Etsy as well. But when I started, I was doing Etsy, and then I would also do a lot of local craft shows. And then I expanded and started doing more shows, like kind of like I did a lot of shows in Vancouver and in Chicago, and then just all around Toronto. And then I created my own website as well, obviously, after about 2 years of paper cutting. So I use Shopify for my website, and then I sell there as well. And then I also sell wholesale to shops, so retail stores can buy my products to resell in their stores.
Smart.
And then in terms of a breakdown, pre-COVID, it was pretty much 33-ish between my online sales, my wholesale, and then at shows.
Awesome.
So so basically, like to an extent, over the years, since COVID, obviously we didn't have any shows online, so it was just my website and to retail shops. But yeah, the One of a Kind show is back. It starts at the end of March, so that's the big show in Toronto. There's a photo of me up on the stage at the One of a Kind right now, meeting superfan Nav and trying on the Raptors championship ring. But the One of a Kind show is really good. And I mean, like any shows, like for someone starting out, because I read a lot, like if I'm ever on like forums or people talking about small businesses, it's like really hard to get your stuff noticed if you're like just posting it online. Like there's so much stuff online. So I really think that like doing shows and getting my name out there for like years was what made me like the most successful, and what kind of like gave me some like notoriety in like my community and within Toronto. Because like if someone comes to the One of a Kind show every year, then they see your booth every year, they kind of like, they're remembering you, they're seeing you again, they know that they're going to come back and get one of your products the next year. So that's been like I think the best thing that I've done for my business. And then it's also like connects you with like a huge community. Like you're seeing the photos right now of like me and all like my vendor friends. Like those are like my closest friends now, and it's like connects you with that community of people that's like there to just like in the same position as you and can give you so much support. So shows was like so good for me. But then I also think it's great to be on Etsy. Like I'm still on Etsy now. It just connects me too with like a lot of more international. Like I get a lot of orders to the US there. And that just gives me sales and gives me customers that I would have never reached without it.
I mean,
it's really beneficial too.
I was gonna say, like, I'm sure. I mean, look, obviously it goes for everybody. Like, say, COVID is sort of it put a wrench in a lot of plans, but certainly the 33 breakdown is really interesting though, because it just goes to show that there's sort of no piece wasted, right? It's sort of if you're in a position where maybe it's 50, 25, 25, like as a business owner, you might say, okay, maybe I want to lean more heavily into this, or should I, promote this side or anything? But that's sort of an ideal position, I imagine, to sort of say like, hey, everything I'm doing sort of has an even, distribution for my business. And it's good to hear that, like, with the laser, I assume it kind of puts you in a position where you can create stuff at the speed that you would need to sort of supply like a retail store, let's say, where you need to be able to send them, I assume quite a large order, at least to begin with, as opposed to
Yeah, it's
You know.
definitely, and I don't do all of my products, like, and that's something. When I first started, I was doing every single product. I would sell it wholesale, and I would like the basic, and because you have to sell wholesale at 50% of cost, right? So I would sell any product wholesale. Now I only sell the products wholesale that are like complete, like monetarily, like completely worth it for me. So things like Christmas ornaments and coasters and like some of the wooden pieces are great, but like the paper cuttings, they're just too time intensive to make to sell at the price that people want to buy it in a store, and they're almost like, some of them are almost like too niche for somebody just like walking into a shop to want to buy like a liver paper cutting. It's like
Yeah, what's the shop that
yeah, like, it depends on the shop that it does do well, but like the snowflake Christmas ornaments are gonna sell higher, obviously.
Miguel, I feel like I'm talking too much. Is there anything I don't want to?
Oh no, I was honestly to this second, I'm still remembering the video that she was cutting, and
The exact
it's kind of
one?
looping it, yeah, with the Zacto,
Yeah.
and it's looping in my mind how good her dexterity is. You know, for someone that didn't wasn't an artist, so she was just so precise, and it just had a flow to it. It's so nice to see those things, to see the whole process and put it out there. Which
Sorry, go ahead.
I want to ask this, but you said that you were not a creative before you went into this business, right? But your family has other people that are creative and they have their own business, right?
I wouldn't say I wasn't creative, but I wasn't like professionally in that field.
Were your siblings professional before you, or did you start the?
No, I'm the oldest, so I started it. I started it all. My brother is a really popular music producer, and then my other brother is he does like visual graphics, like a lot of digital stuff, but like with a really retro look. Like he puts everything onto like an old TV and then like films it with his camera and stuff. So me and him actually yesterday we used the laser cutter to experiment with this. We made some like old style like title cards like from a movie. So he's doing this for some musicians like as custom work. So we cut their logos and stuff into huge Bristol boards, and then he's gonna film them with light and smoke coming through them.
That's sick.
So it's cool how we can kind of like connect on those things. And then my sister is she actually lives in Amsterdam, and she's works for a marketing agency.
Christmas presents at your house must be incredible.
That must be so fun.
Nobody's getting a macaroni card.
Everybody needs Lego.
Like, that's unreal. I think that's a really good question, Miguel. I think that's a good point, because I think also too, like, it just goes to show too that people shouldn't necessarily be, put off by the idea that, if it's not something necessarily that you've done your whole life, that like you don't have to necessarily have been, grinding your artwork since, you were 4 years old kind of thing. Like if you just had a passive interest and then you decide like, no, you know what, I'm gonna, double down on. I was gonna say before, because Miguel was talking about the video that sort of like lives rent free in his brain, but there's one I risk embarrassing myself now, but am I right in remembering that you did a series of videos kind of when COVID first hit, like the first lockdowns, where you were like keeping the dexterity up in your hands and you were cutting fruits?
Yeah.
Am I crazy?
Yes. So I did it right when COVID hit, like when everything shut down. Me and my partner, we were actually in New Orleans he was at a conference. So then when we were there, it was like when the NBA shut down, and it was like everyone was like, oh, this is happening. So we went home early, and then we obviously had to quarantine. So we were stuck at home, and I was like, oh, okay, like what am I gonna do? I'm so bored. And then I was like, I'm gonna try to make something cool. Like, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna try to do start baking bread, like everybody's baking bread. So, and I was like, I could be able to cut some bread. Yeah. So I tried that, and then I was like, oh yeah, this is fun, but like I don't know, the bread, like the dough is really hard to work with. I want to work with something harder. So I was like, oh, I could maybe try with some different foods. So I started like an Instagram, like a hashtag quarantine cutting, and I did and I cut like kiwi, an apple, banana, zucchini, mushrooms, like just like trying to recreate like the pattern you see in like the heart and stuff like in these different items. Yeah, so it was really fun.
I was gonna say, like Lev, I know it was like, multiple years ago now already.
Yeah,
but like if there's any chance you can find that stuff,
I think you can find it.
Is so cool.
Yeah.
I just like, that's the one that for me personally, thank you, Lev. That's the one that for me personally, like I just can't. That was one of the first ones I saw where I was like, holy smokes. Because it's that moment, right, where I think you sort of alluded to it in the beginning where I was sort of ignorant about how you went about creating your piece. Yeah, so there's one right there. Like, that's just, like, I assumed, like Miguel, that you sort of created things digitally first and foremost, right? And then went from there. But seeing something like that is just a reminder of, like...
I kind of did something similar, which is one of the reasons, like I said at the beginning, that I like her so much, because it was kind of similar to it. And that's one of the reasons why I love to work. I love my job. It's because I started as a traditional drawer and then draftsman, right? And then I went to oil painting and all that. And then I went to digital. But it always felt like something was missing. I like to, have things in my hands. So I didn't know how to translate what I was doing in a screen to real life, to like a 3D environment. And when I met the laser cutters and I started to create stuff and seeing other artists doing those things, it just blew my mind. Like, this is so cool, right? And you were one of them, probably one of the first, Don knows that. I've been fanboying for you since forever, so that's on you.
Dude, like we rely on Miguel in a big way. He'll play it down, but we rely on Miguel in a big way because he has the greatest tendency to find these incredibly talented artists on social media platforms in particular, you being one of them, where just sort of like he'll come in and he'll have this great look in his face like, I have something to show you. I have this really cool thing. Yeah.
No, since 2020, right? Like as soon as COVID hits, I remember that I was just trying to think in a way and how could we have like an interview with you or talk to you or see, we work up close or something like that, and you finally did it. That's why I was so excited when you came in here. It's like, oh my God, I'm seeing one of my idols. So I'm so sorry if I don't have very in-depth questions about it. It's just because,
I just want to make sure I wasn't talking over you too much. I have a
absolutely
history of.
And Lev has a lot of questions.
He does. I was going to say, I think we're going to take just a really quick 30-second break as long as I get sort of the thumbs up from Lev that we're good to go. We're going to show a quick video. And then when we come back, I think I'm going to kick over to a bunch of questions that we have for Ali, both some from the chat and then some, from us, if that's cool. So stay tuned, guys. Check this out. It's going to be really cool. And I will keep vamping until I see that the video is ready to go and you're going to like this video. This is such a good video. And there it goes. There was that video.
Anytime.
The suspense always killing me. Thank you, Lev.
Hey, everybody. It's James back in the van with you all. Listen, I got something super cool coming up on March 15th of this year at the Langley, British Columbia office of Trotec. We're having an open house. We're going to have it filled with laser engravers, filled with laser experts, here to train you. We're going to have giveaways. We're going to have fantastic stuff for you there. I want you guys to all show up. Please look for the banner ads and the videos and the stuff coming in your email telling you all the particulars. Sign up because there is a limited amount of people allowed there. Listen, you guys are amazing. Take care.
I love that crazy keyboard riff at the end. It's just so crazy. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that, Lev. Thank you. Yes, do not miss out. We have our open house coming to Langley, BC next week. The open house is on the 15th of March. The special training day, the laser boot camp with Miguel, is going to be on Wednesday the 16th. You can always go to bit.ly/inthevan, all caps, and sign up.
Ironically, I just received an email from a customer saying, Miguel, I hope I have a spot there. Yeah,
yes.
Come on, buddy. I was like, well, I'll contact you soon. Wait a second, I'll call you.
Lev is also showing, you can visit the link tree in our Instagram profile, and there's also the signups there for the Vancouver and another boot camp we might be talking about very shortly. But in the meantime, Man, Lev, I don't know what we would do without you here, buddy. We'd be so lost. Okay, so I have a bunch of questions, Allie, for you. If you don't mind, I'm going to sort of lightning round them at you, and quick answers or long answers, whatever you like, feel free. Go ahead. First one I have to go back to is this one from John. Thanks for the question, John. Just asking specifically what kind of paper you use.
Yeah, so when I hand cut originals, I usually use a 32 pound. It's just like a really smooth, like I want to work with something pretty smooth. And then I use like a variety of different paper for other projects. So for my my anatomy pieces and just like the single sheet ones, I usually just use like also a 32 pound. And I find for the really intricate ones, especially if you're cutting lighter paper, I find like a smoother paper is better in the laser and has less burn marks. And then for my larger, more colorful pieces, like I have a new piece here I can show you. This one I'm using Canson paper, and just a variety of different colors, and then I'm adhering them together with a double-sided tape. And this one I believe is like a 50 pound.
Double-sided tape, really?
Yeah.
Wow. How do you achieve the double-sided tape on the fingers, for example, that are super fine and super intricate?
I have to cut really tiny pieces and then like glue it behind each little piece. But as you know, I'm pretty dexterous to cut those. So
yeah, that's true. Yeah, actually, somehow that's not so surprising. Still impressive, but not so surprising now in retrospect. I remember like. In university, I studied, advertising, marketing, that sort of thing. And we always had to do like mounting our work to like foam core boards and stuff like that, and just trying to use things like the spray adhesive and stuff. And just, I wish I had been dexterous enough to use like double-sided tape, because I think about using the spray adhesive and just like soaking this piece of paper that I've spent hours working on.
I tried using spray adhesive the other day, and it's just like I'm definitely like dexterous with small stuff, but I'm not like careful with that kind of like painting or things like that. So, like the video that Lev is showing right now is I'm mounting one of my pieces, one of the wooden pieces, to an artboard, and I use like thread, like a needle and thread to do that, so that you're not damaging the piece. So I like sew the piece to the board behind it.
Wow.
And then that allows people, like, this is for if somebody's buying it framed, then if they want to reframe it or take it off, the piece isn't actually damaged, the wood isn't damaged, it's just like being held up with the thread.
So this sort of leads into another question I wanted to ask you in a way, and I hope this doesn't sound silly, but like in my mind, right, like there's a certain amount of if I were to see this up close and to see that someone had taken the time to hand sew it, there's kind of something in that in my marketing brain, I guess, that gets processed that says like there's sort of a link in my head, right, between a piece of artwork that clearly is like a handcrafted piece, and then again like a handcrafted, like sewing it by hand seems to sort of fall into the same sort of category in my head, right? Like they make sense as a pair. Mm-hmm. So like I know that it sounds like the evolution of this business has been very like organic, and I admire that in a real way. But we did have a question or two sort of about like the way that you market yourself on Instagram, and if it's like sort of do you worry about it being sort of like a conscious like like even sharing the sort of enjoyment of being at craft fairs and being with other people? Like it's not like it's just showing your work. Certainly your work is a big part of it, but then it's also like sharing the other parts of your life that sort of add that layer of like authenticity, letting you know that there really is somebody, there really is an alley somewhere like hand cutting the stuff. Like how conscious is that sort of Instagram social media marketing piece, and how much of it is just you sort of doing what comes naturally?
It's definitely like not necessarily what comes naturally, but like it's easier for me to share like, oh look, I'm walking my dog and we're on vacation, we're doing this, and like look at this cool plant, and look at this thing that like I painted or something. Kind of like work that in because that's just like my regular life. But it's definitely like I am aware that like because people come to shows and they're like, will ask me about something. Oh, I saw you did that like personal project, or like, oh, how's this? And like it's definitely a way that I connect with people, and like those are the people that I care about too, like who I buy from on Instagram, or like the businesses that I follow. It's not just like someone who's doing like generic, just like this is what we make and here's like some font over top of every single photo, just like selling all the time. But like I don't consider myself like a brand. Like I'm just like one regular person trying to sell artwork. So it's like that's like part of what I'm doing.
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it can seem very like to somebody who's starting a business. Certainly, you know, we've Lev and I have tried to do you know, marketing seminars and stuff like that for Trotec customers, just to give some very basic, you know, ideas and thoughts and just, you know, feedback and stuff for people. And I think it can seem a little bit obtuse sometimes, right? It's like, well, how do I ever get started, right? Like, where do I do and what do I include and how do I, you know, like how much in your mind is sort of like Light and Paper Alley as a, I forgive this term, but like sort of as a brand, like obviously it is a business. And then, you know, there's you who exists as a, you know, as an individual, right? So, you know, how much of it do you have to sort of, you know, if I'm a small business owner, like how much of it do you feel, is there like a ratio that you try and maintain of like maybe, you know, too much work posting, got to post something personal, or too much personal, got to post something work? Or is it more just like you say, like, you just try and share what naturally the actual experience is of being, you know, you?
Yeah. I don't
That's
know.
a tough question. I'm sorry.
Something that I struggle with because like I didn't go into this to be like I want to be the face of a company, like, and
Totally.
like, I definitely like I'm like a private person and like don't like I like naturally like don't kind of like overshare with people. So it's definitely like it is a conscious decision of like what I'm going to share, and what kind of like whatever I share. I want to help establish like my business and my artwork. So it has to kind of be having to do with that. But yeah, I don't have any kind of like ratio written down or kind of like plan about it. It's kind of like what feels right in the moment.
Yeah.
But it also like that there are positives and negatives to it, because if
Definitely.
I'm kind of like feeling down or feeling uninspired or really busy with something else, my business will suffer from that, because I'm just not posting as much and I don't have like a set plan of this is what I'm going to post. It's kind of like I just do it on the fly. But on the other hand, it makes my presence and my social media like way more authentic than like a brand that's like has scheduled posts and kind of like just like kind of gets boring.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I ask. Like, it seems like a weird, like, abstract question, right? But I think in the sort of age of social marketing that we're at now, it can be tough to kind of figure out where that line is, and I think it's probably different for everyone. But I think there is sort of an interesting question to be asked there, like you said, about sort of a lot of people I don't think get into business to be famous themselves, kind of thing, or to like to publicize themselves. They get into it because they love what they do, right? And so the sort of just the reality of 2022 is oftentimes it seems like you know, there's certainly a benefit, like you said, I think, to giving somebody a real, like, a human person that they can identify with and attach to, but it doesn't come naturally to me either. So I understand where you're coming from, where it feels odd to sort of repost things of my own life, you know?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of us who are kind of like in this field, it probably like isn't necessarily like the most natural thing for us. So it's like it's a little bit tough. It's definitely like a decision that you have to make. But so like the pictures that Lev is showing right now, these are hand cut paper cuttings that I made to commemorate me and my partner's trip to Europe in 2019, which was for our 10-year anniversary. So I made one for Lisbon and one for Amsterdam, and then we took the photos there, obviously. So that's kind of like an example of how I can share. So we were there visiting my sister in Amsterdam, and like I can share a bit about that, and I can also tie it into like these paper cuttings that I made to commemorate this trip, and it's like kind of ties into my business, but still makes it more like meaningful and special than just like, here's a random travel paper cutting, or here's a random travel like piece, something.
Yeah. Here is one of our favorites, item number 6924 from our catalog, which you can see at
exactly.
bigcartel.com.
Like things like this, like it's really easy at shows and stuff. Like that's even like, because a lot of people when they're doing kind of one of a kind show, for example, is like a huge show. There's like over 800 vendors, and it can be really daunting for a business to like sign up for it and go to sell there because it's expensive. But like there's way more benefit to doing those kind of things than just like how much money you'll make from it. Like after I started doing shows in Vancouver, I'm getting way more sales in Vancouver. I met some connections there who invited me to do another show, or invited me, or just started buying from me wholesale. I met somebody who I just like connected with as a friend, and then even we can do posts together, and kind of like people like find each other through our posts. Like there's just like so much benefit to kind of like interacting in those in-person events that's beyond just like how many sales can I make, and that kind of like you can see like comes off in my Instagram, like when I'm sharing those events.
100%. And I think also like people, for better or for worse, will sort of always infer certain things about you based on your design, like, oh, like Allie's into tarot. Not necessarily. She might just love the fact that tarot cards are beautiful, kind of thing, right? But like, you know, there's always kind of that aspect of it too that I just sort of think, well, if I can't control it, then I won't worry about it, sort of thing. But
yeah, absolutely. And I've kind of like I that's kind of ties into what I said about like not being precious about my artwork. Like I'm like, oh, okay, like people are into this and like it looks really cool, so I'm gonna make it. But I'm not necessarily like I don't want to admit this aloud, but I don't believe in astrology.
I think that's,
but
that's perfectly fine.
Astrology is don't repeat that.
I think that's perfectly fine.
Oh, if you knew why I laughed like that.
I'm gonna get called out later today. I didn't see that.
Not at all. I think the thing is, at the end of the day, like if you think about like even your typical like tarot card deck that's produced, like let's say in like a printing factory in like Detroit or something.
Yeah.
If it was necessary that everybody working on that printing machine was like a tarot devotee, like it would be very tough to staff that job. You know what I mean? Like it's not taking anything away from it, of course. But I did have a great question, and this kind of comes back again to this. Are those mushrooms?
Yeah, those are mushrooms. Those are one of my quarantine cuttings.
So that wasn't the great question, but these ones just, I don't know why, but they really get, possibly because I can't cook. So I think like, well, there's something else I could do with food that would be of use. Yeah. You don't have to talk about this again more than you want to, certainly, but I do want to ask you about another one that we get from a lot of small businesses is pricing. So sort of trying to, you know, even if it's just about that question you sort of said, like choosing the pieces, for example, that you wholesale are the ones where you've looked at the ROI and you're like, you've been able to calculate, I can make these fast enough that I can sell them at a price that's competitive, kind of thing. So, you know, would it be possible to sort of tell us a little bit how you go about sort of choosing prices for items or trying to, you know, figure out how much you want to charge for something?
The basic formula that I use is time. So my time, which I have like a hourly rate that I would calculate that with, how long it takes me, and I count both how long it takes the laser to cut the piece and then how long it takes my time. So like any finishing, packaging, and then also like just like whatever goes into creating that, materials, and then times by 4.
Nice. Just like a flat, like 4 times.
So that's like the basic kind of thing that I use to kind of like, if I'm saying like, how much am I going to charge for that? I do that math and kind of look at it. But then there's definitely like super flexibility within that. Like if I do that math and the piece is like $500 and I know that no one's going to pay that for it, then I'm like, okay, what am I going to do? So for example, like for like the paper cuttings, like it's lower than that. So I don't sell them wholesale. I want it times by 4 because for my retail price, because I want to be able to sell, if I want to be able to sell items wholesale, it's only times by 2.
Right. Well, and I mean, like you said too, it's something I think, I mean, we stress a lot whenever we talk about ROI, but people I think sometimes forget to like account for your time. Yeah. Like even if it's just even if you are a self-deprecating artist, which so many of us are, I think there's the part of it that says, you know, maybe it's opportunity cost. Think about it like, hey, instead of like doing this bespoke paper cut right now, I could be working on the laser making, you know, 20 other pieces for a wholesale job. So if I could be earning X amount of money, but instead I'm choosing to do this, that means I have to make a certain amount on this to make sure that it's worth my time, right?
No, Don, I just do all of those things and stay to the studio till 1 o'clock in the morning.
There's that too. There's always that option. There's that option too. We've all been there, I think. But you know what I mean? Like, remember that, yes, you know, even if you are a business owner and you want to convince people like of how great your products are, that, you know, your time has value and people will see the value in your product, and like, there's no shame in wanting to charge for your time. In fact, you really should.
For sure. It's like, if you start out, and like, obviously everybody does this and I did it too. Like if you start out with like dirt cheap prices and you're not paying yourself, like then like do the math on 5 years of that, and then like what are you going to do? You can't afford your rent, you can't afford then to exist as a business.
Yep.
And then if you jack your prices by 200%, people are like, what? That's not cool. So
that's the other thing.
I think it's important to like plan for it from the beginning and be like, what am I going to charge for this, and what is like sustainable price to charge for this long term, or else you're just gonna like hurt yourself in the
you burn yourself out. Yeah, absolutely. And that's a very real thing. I mean, like, I'm curious to ask if, like you were saying, so if you do the math multiplication, you see like something's going to come out to $500, and you know that nobody's going to pay $500 for that. That like, I know nobody's going to pay $500 for that. Some of that obviously comes from experience. You've been doing this long enough now that you have sort of a sense of where stuff lives in the marketplace. But one thing we talk about sometimes with ROI in smaller businesses is doing your research. So looking at Etsy or Facebook Marketplace for products, maybe not just like yours, but, you know, in a similar sort of size and shape and style, you know, is researching other sort of vendors and products something you would suggest, or is it best to sort of maybe just keep, you know?
Oh, no, definitely. You have to know what other people are charging. Like, you can't charge $25 for a greeting card when every greeting card that someone buys at like a shop is $6.
Yeah.
It's like, unless your product has something that like nobody else has, then it's kind of like, then it's like pointless. Now, like, I don't really have to do that so much anymore now, just because like I have a sense of like how long, like if I hand cut something, I'm like, okay, I know how long that will take. And then I know how long the laser will take for that, and I know how much the material costs, so it's easier now. But like when I was starting out, I definitely did like way more research. And also, but like, it's also, you can go onto Etsy and you can go onto like these websites, and there are people selling stuff for like way too cheap that you could never produce it at. So like I would like, I don't know, kind of like err on the edge of caution, and especially like, not to bash Etsy, but like there's a lot of like mass produced stuff on Etsy now. It's not all handmade. So I would like be careful that you're putting yourself in a market that people are going to pay like a certain price for. Like if I'm hand cutting these original pieces and then selling them as like limited edition art pieces, like someone is going to pay more than $20 for that, even though you can probably get a $20 print on Etsy.
Well, and just really quick, we had a great question from Jeff, and I want to hit to that right away. But I wanted to point out, you reminded me of something we in the past when we've had people on for Laser Jams. They talk about how disheartening it can be to see somebody who's stolen your design, who's just taken it and live traced it on Instagram or on Illustrator from Instagram, kind of thing. Which is why actually now in retrospect, the videos of watching you cut stuff by hand are not only gorgeous, but they also go to show like, hey, if you want to proof that I hand make these things, like here it is. Like there's no two ways around this. You can't fake the fact that you're watching me do it, you know? I did want to pull up this question from Jeff though. I think this is great. So would you be able to talk about how you vectorize photos of your work? It says as design students are watching.
Yeah. So I do have some videos of myself doing this on, I think in my Instagram highlights, there's like a, kind of like FAQs, like questions, and I kind of go through the process. So I will usually hand cut my pieces and then scan them on like a contrasting color. So like if it's a white piece, like the piece you're seeing me cut there, then I scan it on black, and then I just like bump up the contrast and the brightness to make it kind of the most contrasty as possible. So like and make it in grayscale, and then I just live traced on Illustrator.
Just literally the live trace function?
I live trace on Illustrator, and then I probably spend 2 hours fixing all of like the small little issues that there are. So it's not really seamless, especially like you can see this piece is really intricate. Yeah. So it's like, it's not like happening in 2 seconds, but yeah, it's so you can see me here. I'm like putting it onto the paper and then into the scanner. Lately, because I've been doing some more like colorful pieces, it doesn't necessarily work as well to scan it. So I've even just been like using my phone to take a photo, and then I Photoshop it to put it into grayscale and then bump up the contrast to make sure that it can trace. So you can see this is like, that's the automatic trace in Illustrator. It's pretty good.
100%. I mean, like I said, bumping up the contrast. I mean, Miguel's gotten to show a little bit of this in previous tutorials a little bit, or even like the shape builder tool. which makes taking a live trace and fixing it, I find like way easier than what you might have to do with the Pathfinder tool in the past. But that still blows me away, because anything that's super intricate that I've ever tried to live trace in Illustrator comes out as like 6,000 points, and it's just a crazy mess.
Yeah, that happens too.
Okay. I don't feel so bad.
Yeah, so I'll often like simplify too. Like if you just like right click and hit simplify, you can like reduce the number of points. But like for me, like I don't want to reduce it too much, because then it like the design doesn't look the same.
When you lose all the hard work that you question from Amy. Hi Ali, I'm still learning the ropes with Etsy. Any mistakes to avoid with selling online?
Selling, I mean, like, I don't know, it's kind of too broad of a question, I feel like, to answer, like, just mistakes to make. With Etsy, I'm having trouble with Etsy now, just because I feel like in the past 2 years, it's like changed a lot from when I first started it. If you have any specific questions about Etsy, I know that Etsy there's a benefit to having more listings versus less listings. So if you have more products, put them out, like your products will be seen more. People really like customization on Etsy. So one thing that's really popular on Etsy, you can see I'm holding one right now in the video, is like these like customized ornaments. And that's something that I'm able to do and then send out. So that's something that people want to go to Etsy for something special. I feel like, so if you can offer something special, that's like really beneficial. But if you have any other like specific questions, let me know.
Quick question from Jürgen. Is it possible to ballpark, like, let's just say any of your pieces, but maybe the brain in particular, just because it's pretty impressive. How long would you say, like, start to finish, in terms of doing like a paper cut piece? I mean, I know you've probably gotten faster now,
yeah,
even
the original piece of like the intricate anatomy pieces take me usually like 20 to like 40 hours.
Wow.
Hand cut. I find hand cutting really like meditative. Like I think it's like really relaxing. So I kind of like, and I usually will like listen to a podcast or watch a show or something, and just like put my head down and do it. And then the brain, to laser cut in paper at the smaller size, it takes about 10 minutes.
Okay.
Well,
that's not
better than me.
I did want to ask about another one here in the back that Lev sent me. The space that you're in, the studio, do you share it with other makers, or is it like a private space that you have, or?
Yeah, so it's my own private space, but I do rent out a section of it to a friend of mine.
Oh, cool.
So it's about 800 square feet, and it has a bathroom and a kitchenette, and then just like some storage space. And then so she rents out about half a third of the space, and she does leather work, so like keychains and wallets, and she has like a foil press, so she like hand stamps. Like she does a lot on Etsy, customized keychains, customized like gifts like that.
That's cool.
Yeah, I love having a studio. Like, it's just like really nice to have something through.
I was going to ask, is that something that you would suggest for, let's suppose somebody's starting their own small business and they've gotten to a point where like, okay, they're sustaining themselves, they're doing well. Is there a value in your mind of having a space that's separate for your work? So like, certainly, like you said, there's something to be said about like it being meditative and being able to just, maybe sit with your partner and like watch, Netflix and just be, working. But at the same time, like, do you find that it's nice to have that sort of separate place to go to work kind of thing, if you know what I mean? Like,
it's like a must for me. And everybody's different. Like my partner right now, he's been working from home for 2 years and he loves it, because he like walks out of bed in the morning to the computer and logs on. I can't really I really like having a separate space, and maybe this is something to do with like being so like connected like personally to my business, that it's like my artwork, and it's like takes up, like I think about it all the time. I don't just log off at the end of the day. So I really like having a separate space to work. It's like really, really important to me. So that's like, yeah, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't work from home now. And maybe if I could have like some total separation, but yeah, I really like it.
I'm the same way. It's part of the reason I ask. I like kind of having at least for me, I like having that sort of mental divide in my mind where it's like I come to work and it's like I sort of have to be like, when I'm focusing on my work stuff, it's like, okay, I'm in like work mode now. And then when I get home, I have to make sure I shut that part off and be like, okay, now I'm in like home place. You know what I mean? This is like relaxed time.
I'm so bad at working from home now. I can't do it. Every time I'm home, I'm like, oh, I'm going to take the dog for a walk. Like, I got to load the dishwasher. Like, oh, might as well get dinner started. And then it's like 4 o'clock.
It's 6 p.m. How did that happen? Yeah. No, I know what you mean. Unless my boss Lev is listening, in which case I have no idea what you mean. No,
I have a question because I think we're at the top of the hour and I need to put this question out there for you, Ali. Where can we find you live? Because now that Toronto is opening, events will come back, right? And people want to see you. So absolutely. Where can we find you?
I'm going to be at the One of a Kind show in Toronto. So One of a Kind runs this year from March 30th to April 3rd. Mm-hmm. And it is at the Enercare Center, which is like right down by exhibition place.
And you're gonna be the whole week there.
I'll be there. It's Thursday to Sunday, I believe.
Thursday to Sunday.
So that's my next live show. And then also, if you follow me on Instagram, we're going to be having a studio sale at our studio, likely in June. So then we'll be welcoming people here, fingers crossed, inside and selling. So all of my studio neighbors, a whole bunch of them will do it. So we all kind of sell stuff that's
cool.
Yeah, like kind
that's
of like
very cool.
Or like discontinued items and stuff. So that's really fun as well.
Can I ask what part of like what neighborhood, like what sort of section of the city you're in?
Yeah, our studio is in the Junction Triangle. So so yeah, that's located. It's just around DuPont and Lansdowne. Okay,
cool, awesome. Really quickly, Miguel's exactly right. We're getting to the top of the hour. It's another one of those like, how did that happen? But let's pop up the question there. I like this question from Dan. So have you ever tried engraving the paper instead of cutting it? I guess Dan's done large sheets of Mylar and they're speedy, and they're able to get them done in 30 minutes, even though they're, huge kind of thing. It might be.
I tried it once for somebody else. Do you mean, Dan, engraving like through the paper so that?
No, not engraving through the paper, just engraving on the surface of the paper. So it kind of decolorize the paper a little bit.
I thought as well. So for my work, I want it to look like as close to a hand cut paper cutting as possible. Mm-hmm. So I don't really care about engraving that much because it's just like not what I do. But I have tried engraving paper like through the paper so that like the engraving, like you bump up the power of the engraving really hard so that you're cutting through the paper. When I did it, I found that there was a lot of it created a lot more like burning and like
charring kind of
on the paper, and like just like the paper, especially because they do a lot of white paper, it just like got too dirty. But I did it as a project for a friend. His pieces were too intricate to live trace, so we just like engraved the black into it. I'm excited to try the Trotec paper though. I think that Lev is going to give me some to test out because
awesome.
I haven't tried cutting it yet. And then my new machine, because I just got the new Speedy 300 with the suction bed, and the suction bed is so good for paper.
Well, you've been doing this the whole time without like the.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's no. It's not. It's even more impressive is the thing, right?
Yep, I saw some papers flying around while she was cutting. I was like, wait, what?
How on earth?
Yeah, I have the suction now. Okay.
I've wasted my life. I'm not good at anything. Oh my gosh, that's incredible. You're gonna love that. Section.
Oh no. That was gonna show you guys are real, but no, please.
Yes.
Can I talk? Can I speak? I can do it again live now.
He's gone. Thank you, Lev. You guys can't see Miguel, but he's laughing.
My name is Miguel Machado, and in a few weeks I'm going to be in Calgary for our very first open house. It's going to be a full day with laser demos. We'll talk to us, our technicians, our salesperson, and at 1 p.m. we're going to have a presentation on how to start your own engraving business. So you will learn what you should be doing, what type of machines are better for you. On the following day, March 23rd, Wednesday, we're going to have a laser boot camp. That is for Trotec customers only. First come, first serve. And it's going to be a full day of application training, hands-on, for 6 hours straight. We're going to have lunch. We're going to share experiences. It's going to be fun. Register in the link below, and I hope to see you guys there. Hey everyone, my name is Miguel Machado.
Miguel, did you get kicked out of the chat
Yes.
so that we could watch
Yes.
that?
Yes. He kicked me out.
It's for his own good.
Oh
You
God.
were good. You have nothing. That was very, very good.
I'm just okay with live, but when you record something, it's kind of weird. Seeing yourself
is.
being recorded is kind
I
of
don't,
weird.
I don't like watching videos of myself. Don't send me
Yeah.
words I don't want to see.
Our YouTube channel is full of videos of me recording myself, and I still don't necessarily like going back to watch. Thank you, lad. Motivational plaque. Yeah, you can see me growing at light speed if you go through our videos, because I'm like trying out, like, now that I'm like, oh, here's a new pair of glasses, Don. Here's like try to grow a beard, Don. Here's like this version of Don. That's, like,
Oh, yeah.
ridiculous. I have to say, just a quick shout out. As you guys saw, you can see that video and sign up, like Miguel mentioned, on our Instagram. But it'll be Tuesday, March 22nd is the open house in Calgary, and Wednesday,
Yes.
March 23rd is the boot camp in Calgary. Is that the? I got that right? Okay.
Yes, exactly. And for the BC people that, well, wanted to see us, I'm not just gonna say see me, you know. I don't have that much of an ego. I think the boot camp, it's completely filled out. Like, we cannot get anybody else in. However, the open house is there. It's open. Come see us, you know, talk to us. And I'll probably be back in BC and do this whole Canadian tour again by summer, you know. And for Ali, we'll definitely be in the One of a Kind show. I'm going to see you there.
Oh, amazing.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, anybody who comes to the show, like, please come and say hi. I just got my booth number, and I'm at the very front of the entrance, so like you won't be able to miss me.
There you go. Everybody will see you when they come in.
That's smart on their part. I would just say too, as like, Ali is enough of a reason to go to see Ali's work, to get to purchase something from her. Definitely do it. But at the same time, if you've never been to the One of a Kind show, it is something special, man. Like, Ali, could you tell us about sort of what, for somebody who hasn't been, like?
Yeah, like I was like such a loyal One of a Kind show shopper for years, even before I started my business or even thought about starting my business. I would always go every year with my aunt and my mom to the Christmas show and like get all our Christmas presents. It's just like where you can find like so much inspiring creatives and like such cool products that like you won't find anywhere else. And it's also like everybody here knows, like, when someone buys from me at the show, like it's so nice, like connecting with the person who like physically made your item, and like they made this unique thing and you're supporting them as an artist, and it's like an entire like airplane hangar full of people like this. It's just like such a great place to buy gifts, and like especially right now in the pandemic and like with everything that's happening in the world, like I want my money to go to like local people who are making cool stuff and like support them rather than like big box stores and stuff. So it's really amazing.
Absolutely.
And hopefully we'll see a lot of smiles this time, because, you know, we're going to have...
You won't see my smile. I'm still gonna keep my mask on, but
yeah, you're,
but I think technically you will not have to wear a mask or show your proof of vaccination.
We're gonna get Miguel one of those masks that has like the printed smile on the front. They're like they're really weird.
Also, just as a segue, a One of a Kind show happens twice a year, right? It's not just once.
Yeah. So this is the spring show, which is like a 5-day show. And then the Christmas show is actually 11 full days, and that is usually the last week or like the last few days and first few days of December, so late November to early December.
And you're always there.
Always there.
Okay, cool.
That's awesome. I think it is the top of the hour. I think we're probably gonna have to wrap up now, much as I am sort of sad to do it. Miguel, I wanna throw it to you guys. I mean, the two of you. Any final thoughts before we head out, bud? Anything else to share aside from, again, if you're in BC or in Calgary, don't miss Miguel being there in the next 2 weeks. He's gonna do another trip, but like, you know, you want to get that chance to come out and visit Miguel. Free to attend the open house on Tuesday at either location. I mean, go ahead.
Just said it. But, you know, I don't have anything else to say. Yeah, in Ontario,
I
Quebec.
want to the Ontario one. When's that going to be announced?
There you go.
Really soon, I think. Really soon.
Yeah.
Lev. I think there's a very very good chance that it will be next month. That would be my guess. Yeah, it's going to be next month. Okay, thank you.
Quebec
I'll
actually
put it
comes
there,
first, and I think Ontario will be mid-April. That's
Cool,
when
cool.
we'll have it.
Yeah.
Hopefully, no more snow, open skies. You'll see some flowers out there. The spring will be fully blown.
Please. Why did he get kicked for that? That's not so bad.
I don't know.
That's not me. I just want everyone to know that that's not me doing that. That's just my hands are. Thank you to everyone for watching so much. Thank you again, obviously, to Ali. Is there anything,
Thank you, Ali.
just as we're headed out, where can we find you online? If anybody is like just joining the stream at the last minute, saw your work, is like, wow, where can they find you?
So you can find me on Instagram as Light and Paper Ali. It's LIGHT. And then my website is lightandpapershop.com. Yeah, and those are the best two spots. You can find me on TikTok. I have 2 videos posted and 10 followers. Yeah, the Instagram, my website, and then at the show at the One of a Kind would be amazing. And if anybody has any other questions or follow up, you can send me a DM on Instagram.
That's awesome. If anybody has any questions for us, you can always post them either, this will go live on our YouTube channel once we finish recording. So you can always post them in the YouTube comments. We'll do our best to get back to you as soon as we can. Again, just a huge thank you to everybody for watching now. If you're watching this later on YouTube, I mean, thanks again. Ali, obviously, a huge thanks to you. I mean, we don't need to say it again. You guys definitely can see how great and talented Ali is. Go check out her stuff. Visit her at the One of a Kind show if you can. I would be there if I could. I think I'm going to send Miguel and his creepy printed mask in my place. But you know what I mean? Like, it's an amazing place, and Ali's an amazingly talented artist. We're very fortunate to have her with us. We'd love to have you back anytime. You let us know.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'm going to wrap it up, I guess, you guys. Again, huge thank you to everyone. Take care. Stay safe. We'll be probably off next week. I'm going to be traveling, but I think the week after that, Lev is bringing you a special stream, I hope so. Stay tuned. We'll see everybody soon.
Cool. Thanks.
Bye.
Have a good weekend.